Please welcome to the stage, Phil Barth.
Okay, now we all know why I'm a speaker and not a quarterback. Good morning, Orlando. I love to start by throwing chickens. I love my opening video for several reasons. Number one, that song gets me fired up. The composition was actually performed by my oldest son, Kenny, on his guitar and his computer. We'll hear more about him and my son, Joe, the musicians, in a bit. The second reason I like it is because it reminds me that I get to do what I love. That's right. Public speaking. I get to talk with people around the world and meet fascinating people and hear their stories and share them what I've learned about success, about achieving your goals. And it all started when I started frying those chickens of fear, negativity, and self-doubt. That's the message today. When you fry those chickens, you'll be on the way to achieving your dreams and living the life you deserve. And yes, you might even become an international best sort of selling author. You're probably wondering, what is an international best sort of selling author? Let me tell you, they gave me this. When I wrote my book, Great Things Happen Every Day, Finding Joy with Family, Friends, and Banana Milkshakes, that's my youngest son, Tom, on the beach in South Carolina. When we wrote the book, we put it out on Kindle. It was a free book for 5 days. And in those 5 days, it went to number 1 on the bestseller list for Kindle books about stress management that were free. I don't want to brag, but it blew the other 3 in the category out of the water. In those 5 days, I sold thousands of copies, and I earned zeros of dollars. Which begs the question, if I didn't get any money, can I call it a bestseller? My bank says I can't. It's okay though, because it got the message to the people who needed it. The feedback I've gotten is, that book helped me. That book helped me see what's good in life. And that was the goal. By the way, I call it international best sort of seller because a couple of people from Canada downloaded it. The goal was to get the message out there to people who needed it, and the feedback, in person and online, said it did. I didn't earn $1 million, I didn't get a Pulitzer Prize, but that's okay. I would have taken any of those. But the idea is, when you are clear about your goal, and you pursue it to the point of, yes, obsession, we'll talk about that, you will be on your way to living the life you were meant to live. And you might even find yourself someday sitting across from Meredith Vieira. And when that happens, she might even ask you about your buns. But before we can go there, we have to go back. There's a little bit of a dad joke there, but before we can go there, we have to go back in time to 1999. August of 1999, I walked into my hotel room in Stamford, Connecticut, and I said, that new show is on, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I'm going to check it out. So I turned on the TV, and Regis Philbin came on a little bit later. And as I'm watching the show, I'm thinking, I could do this. I mean, it's multiple choice. It's not like Jeopardy where you have to actually know things and phrase them in the form of a question. But I didn't think much more about it until the end of the show. And then on the screen it said, would you like to be a contestant on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I'm like, you can do that? Just dial this number. It was an 800 number, so I dialed. It was a 3-question test. If you got it right, you went into a random draw. 10 people from that random draw were contestants on the show. If you didn't get it right, every day you could try again. I tried every single day. And every single day I was watching that show, just to make sure they hadn't changed the 800 number or something. And I was pretending I was on that show. I was watching, I was trying, and I wasn't getting on the show. But it didn't matter, because getting on that show became my obsession. Now, in the audience, who can give me a word that you associate with the word obsession? A word or some words? Anybody? Passionate. Very good. Others? Determination. I love it. Others? Stalker. There. Who said that? My favorite answer is the 80s song, Obsession. Because I believe there's 2 types of people in the world. Those who think that 80s music was the greatest of all time, and those who are sadly mistaken. So obsession. There are a bunch of different definitions, a lot of them positive, some of them negative. But for today, let's go with what I define obsession to be. Obsession is wanting something so much that you will willingly fry any of those chickens, fear, negativity, and self-doubt that get in your way of you legally achieving your goal. In 1999 and 2000, and even in 2001, being on the TV game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was my obsession. Now, I define obsession as 1 degree past passion. Right? I'm passionate about nice sports cars. Elon Musk has an obsession. He has several, but that's another story. Obsession is when you are fully committed. And I was fully committed to the obsession of being on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And it was a good thing that I was, because what I didn't tell you was 10 people from the people who called in got a spot on the game show. Every night, 200,000 people were calling in. 1 in 20,000 chance. That is just the odds that those little chickens inside your head love to throw in your face. 1 in 20,000, what makes you so great? You'll never make it. Give up. But when you have the obsession and you are fully committed, you don't give up. I kept calling, and I never made the show. Eventually, they stopped the calls, and they started doing in-person auditions. They wanted local people, so they went to various cities. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, so when I heard there was an audition in Chicago, I became a local person from Chicago. Flew to Chicago, took the audition test. Here's how it worked. You were given a multiple choice test. Every question on the multiple choice test had already appeared on the TV show. Did I mention I watched every single show? I did pretty well on the multiple choice test. Those who passed the multiple choice test were then put in another room. You're given a number 2 pencil and a short answer form. After you filled that out, you were interviewed with an associate producer. I did this, went back to my hotel in Chicago, flew home the next day, and I waited because they told us, some of you will get a postcard saying you have been on the show. And I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and it never came. It's okay, it's an obsession. A month later, I drove to an audition in Indianapolis. Did the same thing. Filled out the multiple choice test, filled out the multiple choice test with my number 2 pencil. I then filled out the short answer form, number 2 pencil. I then did the interview, drove home, stopped at the outskirts of Indianapolis for a 32-ounce Mountain Dew and a Taco Bell Grande burrito to fuel the ride home. Drove home, got home at 2 in the morning, threw up the Taco Bell at 2:30, and thought, this is a sign. I have suffered for my obsession. I will get that postcard. I did not. That's not how things work. If they did, Taco Bell would sell a lot more food. And I'd have a sponsorship deal. So about a year later, I was getting ready for another audition, this time in Cleveland, Ohio. Had the car packed And I looked at my wife and I said, why am I doing this? I am going to drive for 4.5 hours up to Cleveland. I'm going to get into a hotel, have to be up at 3 in the morning to stand in line until they finally do the test. What am I doing this for? And she said, for your dream. Get in that car and go. And because I did that, and because I have an awesome wife, I took the test. And a few days later, I got a call at work. My wife said, your son Kenny has something he wants to tell you. Oh, we'll get to that quote in a bit. Your son Kenny has something he wants to tell you. And he got on the phone, he said, Daddy, you got a postcard in the mail. And he read it to me. One of the greatest days of my life. You have been selected to the contestant pool of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I believe there's a difference between passion and obsession. And the difference is this. Oh, sorry. We'll get there. Let's go back first to the quote, because I kind of bypassed it. Derek Sivers had the great quote. Really summarizes what this is all about. He said, when I am given a choice to either do something or not do something, a project, anything, I have two options. It's either hell yeah or it's no. Hell yeah or no. Now, I will admit that doesn't always work. I can't come up with a scenario where I wake up first thing in the morning, look at the calendar and go, colonoscopy prep, hell yeah! But even then, I can come up with a scenario where I say, do I want to do everything I can to reduce the odds of getting cancer? Hell yeah. It was my hell yeah, it was my obsession, it was my big, bold, brilliant idea. And because of that, I believe the universe rewarded me. Okay, maybe the universe didn't reward me. Maybe it was the internet. You see, between that year for Indianapolis and Cleveland, I went out to the internet. I said, you know what? There are people who have passed this audition test, and I'll bet they put what they did out there. And I learned two things. First thing I learned is just because they give you a number 2 pencil and a short answer form doesn't mean that's what you have to use. When I got to Cleveland, I reached into my pocket and I pulled out a red felt tip marker, a yellow highlighter, a 4-color pen, 2 or 3 other writing utensils. The guy sitting next to me with his form looked over at me and said, looked at my pens, looked at me, looked at his number pencil and said, oh, shh, I'm not going to take what he said. That was the first thing I learned. The second thing I learned was this. It's not an English test. They don't care how well you answer the questions. They are only looking for stories that they can use with Meredith Vieira and you in between the questions. And because of that, I took some of my best stories, put them in red felt tip marker, circled them with a yellow highlighter, and I found myself across from Meredith Vieira, telling her one of my stories. The kind of story that makes people go, aw. Here's the story. When I first started watching Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I was watching with my young son, Kenny. He was 5 at the time. Regis Philbin was the host. He said, coming up in the hot seat, welcome to the hot seat. Next up in the hot seat. Kenny got this look on his face, goes, Daddy, how hot do they make that hot seat? Aw. That story was what got me on the show. And when I got done telling the story, Meredith Vieira looked at me and said, so, how your bun's doing right now? I cannot be certain, but I am relatively sure that in the entire history of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I am the only contestant that Meredith Vieira asked about their buns. Passion is nice. Obsession pays. And in this case, it paid $32,000. So when you have that big, bold, brilliant idea, you need to write it down and pursue it. Does that make sense? Good. Because let's take about a minute, minute and a half, and I want you to write down what a big idea that you have. A big, bold, brilliant idea. Let's take a minute and a half, and then we're going to share. There is a book on the line for whoever has the best idea, and chickens for those who have any kind of idea. So at your tables, you can discuss and write it down. All right, 30 seconds. Okay. Who has one they would like to share? Yes, right here.
I always thought they should add generators to the Planet Fitness machines and pay for their electrical bill.
Generators at Planet Fitness to pay for their electric bill. I like it. Others. In the back, right here. Yeah.
Right. I actually have two. One's practical, one's not. So the first one is developing a software that combines requirement solicitation, user stories, workflows all together in one. So you don't have separate things. But the one that's fun is, you know how there's all of those like bikini coffee shops around? You all have seen those, right? Yeah. I think they need to make one for women where there's men in tiny little bikinis and you call it grinders.
Any others? That's gonna be tough to beat, but you're up.
Solar panels over parking lots instead of over green fields.
Solar panels over parking lots. That's a good idea. All right. The fact that I'm giving you this book in no way implies that I support your idea. But it does recognize the fact that you participated and you have a big, bold, brilliant idea, and I love it. Give her a hand. I'm not from Orlando. I didn't realize they had a lot of bikini coffee shops down here. All right. So you've got that start. You've looked at your big, bold, brilliant idea. Now, if you had problems with your big, bold, brilliant idea, you couldn't come up with something right away, apologize. Look at your bucket list. What do you have on your bucket list? And more importantly, if you want to make room for big, bold, brilliant ideas, you have to have what I call a chuck it list. Things you want to chuck into the volcano that don't serve you anymore, so that you can focus down on that big, bold, brilliant idea. And once you have it, share with people around your table. Share with people at the conference. We'll talk more about that later, why it's important. Now, somebody said, and I think it was the male bikini coffee shop back here, somebody said it was a fun idea. And that's the next thing I want to tell you is, if your idea is fun for you, you are much more likely to want to do it. As I mentioned, I have my two oldest sons are in a heavy metal band. Kenny was the one that did the first composition. Kenny and Joe are in a heavy metal band with 3 other of their friends from Cincinnati. They said, hey, you know what would be fun? Let's do an album. And they did. Now think about that. 30 years ago, if you wanted to do an album, you had to get a record producer, you had to get time at the studio, you had to go through all this work. I am not saying what they did was easy, but I am saying the technology made it so they could do it. What'd they do? They opened up a MacBook. They used GarageBand. Now they composed it, they recorded it, they edited it, but they got it out there. And one of their songs has actually been played on 96 Rock in Cincinnati. They're there, Solar, Starless. Right after Jane's Addiction and before Bush and Metallica. They've got quite a following locally and for whatever reason in Indonesia. They've got one of their drummer really knows how to market this stuff. They have over 100,000 listens on Spotify. And they said, hey, that was fun. Now let's do a video. And they've done multiple videos. And again, I grew up in the MTV generation when MTV showed music videos. I know that dates me. Back then, you had to get a studio, you had to get it on the air. They've got it on YouTube. So they did a video. Oh, I'm going to have a picture of them first because I'm a dad that likes to brag about my kids. There they are. So there's Joe on the left, Kenny on the right, at one of their concerts. And they said, let's do a video. They did a video. There's a picture from their video. Now, if you're looking real closely here, right? One of my rubber chickens has been in their videos. Anybody know why they put it down by the drum? Drumsticks. I'm a dad, a groan is as good as a laugh. So they have done multiple videos, and again, it was fun. It was their big, bold, brilliant idea. It wasn't easy, it took some time, but we live in a time where you can do your big, bold, brilliant idea. If you want to write a best sort of selling book, you can write a book. If you want to do a movie, you can put it on YouTube. Whatever you want to do, the technology is out there. So don't be afraid. You know, they had all that going for them. What they didn't have fear. Love this quote by Sarah Blakely. Fear kills more dreams than failure ever will. Fear. Those little chickens inside of you, they kill more dreams than failure ever will. Make it fun. Now, so far we have been talking about big ideas, best sort of selling books, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, 100,000 listens. I want to be clear about something. Your idea just has to be big to you. It does not have to be big necessarily to the world. Go back to the 1980s, that time of the greatest music in the world, as some of you agreed with me. I'm sitting in my cubicle at work. I should be working, programming the computer, but I'm actually daydreaming. I'm daydreaming about a coworker. Her name is Beth. I think, oh, that long, silky hair, those beautiful eyes, that wonderful smile. Why, I ought to ask her out on a date. As soon as I had that thought, out popped the chicken. You can't ask her out. She's out of your league. She was. She's beautiful. She was. And you're a geek. I was. Back then, I was an IT geek. But I thought, geek or no geek, I want to take a chance and ask her out. And the chicken said, you're just being ridiculous. Sit back down to your cubicle, program your computer, and forget about it. And so I did. And as I sat at my computer, I thought, you know, I need to analyze my life. So I built a spreadsheet. Built a spreadsheet, it was really cool. I determined that I had been given on this planet no more than 32,867 days. I then deducted the number of days I had already spent on the planet, most of which were given to those chickens. I came up with a remainder of, at best, 23,509 and 1/2 days. It was a half day because I finished the spreadsheet at noon. I said, this is all I have left. This is a call to action. I need to do something now. So I stood up, I looked at her cubicle, and I walked straight over to the coffee machine. And while I was at the coffee machine, guess who showed up? Nobody. Do you think I was going to say Beth? No. There is no big, bold, brilliant idea delivery service. If you want it, you have to take action. And as I stood there at the coffee machine, I realized I had a choice. I could either go forward, take a chance, and ask for a date, or I could go back to my cubicle and live my life surrounded by chickens, including the worst chicken of all, regret. Isn't that a terrible chicken? I coulda, I shoulda, I woulda. Regret. And it was the fear of regret that moved me over to her cubicle to ask for a date. You see, I put my elbow on her cubicle wall because that looks cool. It's a wonder I ever had a date. I said, if you're not doing anything Friday or Saturday, oh, Friday or Saturday, that's too formal. You should have said during the week. Or maybe next week sometime. Maybe we could go out to dinner. Go out to dinner, way too formal. You're blowing it, buddy. You should have said, get a bite to eat. I said, you know, get a bite to eat. You like to eat, don't you? Oh my God, you called her fat. That chicken had me on the ropes. When you're on the ropes, you have to hold on to your big, bold, brilliant idea. I looked at her, I said, maybe next Tuesday we could play tennis after work. She said yes. Walked around the corner, I thought, I got rid of that chicken, and I've got a date. And between now and next Tuesday, I need to buy a tennis racket. The idea has to just be important to you. What did we learn? We learned your ship is not coming in. If you want it, you have to take action. Now, we were talking earlier about how technology makes a difference and how we can do things quicker. And as a speaker, I've always said, well, I got all these word slides. But wouldn't it be nice if I had some pictures to go with? And now we've got Copilot. So I said, hey, Copilot, generate me an image of your ship is not coming in. See, you have to go get it, and it helps if you've got 4 arms when you're swimming. Alternately, there are a couple of people running for their ship, which happens to be on a train track. Your ship is not coming in. Those are horrible images, but I bet you remember them. That's what I learned. Your ship is not coming in. The other thing I learned is sometimes you have to phone a friend. See, what I didn't tell you was the whole time I was struggling with the chickens, I was also talking to my friend Chris. I said, Chris, I met somebody. Ask her out. Oh, I don't know. He said, ask her out. And I called him, and I called him, and I called him, until finally Chris said, look, if you don't ask her out today, don't call me again. You're wasting both of our times. You need to phone a friend. When do exercise programs work the best? When you have an accountability partner. Phone a friend. Now, depending on the goal, sometimes you need to phone everyone. When I wanted to be on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, I was going up to all of my friends, all of my family, all of my coworkers, people I met in the street saying, I want to be on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And the reason I did that was because I didn't want to have to go back to people years later and say, I gave up. I had this giant accountability group, at least in my head. The other thing it does for you is it tells you who's really on your team. When I would tell people I want to be on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, someone would be like, good luck. Some of them were saying, let me know how I can help. Anything you need, let me know. It tells you who your real people are going to help you get that goal. So sometimes you have to phone everyone. A lot of speakers say this, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Great question. Here's a better one. What would you do even if you might fail? Because the fear of not trying makes you sicker than a Taco Bell Grande burrito and a 32-ounce Mountain Dew. You don't want to have regrets. That is the biggest thing I learned. Fear the bigger chicken. Now, I'm going to need a volunteer to help me out. Yeah, give her a hand. Give her a hand. And you are Robin. Robin, give it up for Robin. Okay. Robin, here's what we're going to do. Okay? I'm going to hold the chicken. You're going to squeeze the chicken's belly. I want you to squeeze it really, really hard. And I'm going to hold my hand over his mouth. This is called the red rooster of regret. I'm going to hold my hand over his mouth. You're probably going to want to run away because it's going to get awful. All right, ready? Give him a good squeeze. I mean, just, yeah, there you go. Okay, ready? Run away, run away. Here we go. All right, ready? Here we go. You can let go now.
Okay.
That was an awesome squeeze, by the way. Give it up for Robin. Okay. Let me tell you about the Red Rooster of Regret. They are for sale. They aren't called the Red Rooster of Regret. They are for sale on Amazon. They have, they're about yay high, and the kid that's holding them is about yay high. And the kids are like, I love you, Red Rooster of Regret. Nobody loves the Red Rooster of Regret. It's awful. You heard it. Was it not awful? You know what's worse? Not pursuing your dreams and having regrets. You need to fear the right chicken, the Red Rooster of Regret. I would love to see what TSA says when they look at my check bags. Fear the right chicken. The bigger chicken. We've been talking a lot about what we do when we pursue a goal. But what can we do to keep those chickens out of our head on a daily basis? We'll get back to the Dolly image. I want to tell you the story first. 2012, Sean Achor, A-C-H-O-R, Harvard University, did a study on happiness. By the way, if you Google Sean Achor TED Talk, not now, but if you Google that, he's got a wonderful talk on happiness. Brilliant. He did a study. What they did was they cut the participants' audience into two groups. The first group started their day, first thing, with 3 minutes of bad news. My gut says they just turned on the regular news. The other group started their day with 3 minutes of solution-focused news. At the end of the day, they asked all the participants, how was your day? The people in the bad news group were 27% more likely to report having a bad day. In just 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 15 minutes to start your day, and you can start it off on the right foot or the wrong foot. And that's why I say you need to win it before you begin it. Or as Dolly says, you need to win it before you begin it. If you look on the right halfway down, I hope that's a rubber chicken and not something else in the gray shorts. I don't know. Win it before you begin it. Everybody has a different morning routine. I'm going to share with you what works for me. I call my morning routine A plus B plus C plus D. Let me explain. A, affirmations. I have a series of rotating affirmations that come up on my iPad. I'm going to make people laugh today. The world is a wonderful place, and I'm going to try to make it better. Different affirmations. A, wires me for positivity. B, book. I like to get some sort of inspiration first thing in the morning. I like the Bible. You can use any book you want that inspires you. But I know this. If I don't do it in the first 15 minutes of the day, it's not going to happen. B is a book. C, coffee. Come on, got to have that cup of coffee. D, the most important one of all, dogs. We have 2 dogs, and dogs are the most awesome, in my mind, creatures in the world. I mean, you wake up first thing in the morning, right? They haven't seen you for maybe 6 hours, 7 hours, and they're like, oh, you're the most wonderful person in the world. I miss you so much. Oh, let me give you kisses and jump up on your lap. Then you feed them dog food. And they're like, dog food? My favorite. Dog food tastes terrible. I know. I lost a bet with my son. Dogs are the most optimistic creatures in the world. A plus B plus C plus D. Now, to be clear, that's the alphabetical order. The actual order in which it happens, D plus C plus B plus A. The dogs don't wait. And I don't wait for the coffee. You need some sort of way to start your day that wires you for positivity. And in the end, it all adds up to gratitude. If you can start with some sort of gratitude practice, something that gets you positive, thinking positively in the first few minutes of the day, you are at least 27% more likely to have a good day and keep the chickens at bay. So here's the question. What are your morning routines? And we have a book for the best morning routine. I love to learn from people. We have chickens and we have books. Anybody got a good morning routine? Right over here.
I've learned about Notion over the last year. I've replaced OneNote a little bit. And every morning for the last probably 6 months, I have this little tool where I can see, making sure I do some exercise, do some training, 1 act of kindness, and forget the last one. I have a 4th thing too.
That's great. So what we had was training, an act of kindness, love it, and exercise. Right? And you said OneNote is? Notion, I'm sorry. But yeah, the tool just helps you support the practice. I love that, especially the thought of kindness. One act of kindness. Starts you off positively, doesn't it? Very good. Others. First up here and then all the way in the back, right here. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I end my evening with gratitude. Usually a story from another person, and then also reviewing my day and what I'm thankful for. But I also review what I think I'm not thankful for and find a way to be thankful for it.
I love that.
Because, a lot of things are, like during COVID, that was probably the best gift for me.
Okay, and you brought up a good point. You're more of an evening person where you do that, and that is in the morning. So something you're grateful for or thankful for, something you're not thankful for, and what you can do to be thankful for it. That's really good. Give it up. And the evening is really good. I'm not really good at that evening wrap up, but I know a lot of people who are, and you can set yourself up for success the next day. We had one in the back.
Mine involves my dog. Every morning we wake up, we do tummy time. So he lays like Superman, and then we do a nice big tummy rub because that's very important to both of us. He eats before we go on our walk, and then while he is eating, I'm showering. We go on the walk to get coffee, and we listen to the Simon Sinek's Optimism, a bit of optimism on our walk, and then that starts our day.
That is incredible. If you have a dog that you take for a walk, that's like a double win. You get exercise and you're spending time with your dog. I'm going to give the book to the lady who had the evening routine, because I think evening routine is something I'm not good at. So we might need to talk later about how you're good at an evening routine. If you talk, or even if not, just come up and see me for chickens. We got a bunch. I wish Amazon did subscribe and save for chickens. Morning routines, you can hear it. Evening routines also set you up for success. Some sort of routine is where your success lies. Now there is another thing you can do to keep the chickens at bay. It's getting a little warm in here. Plus, the rest of this is going to be a little bit active. A few years ago, as you heard in the introduction, I rode a roller coaster. See, the year before, my son Kenny wasn't quite tall enough to ride every roller coaster at Cedar Point, an amusement park in northern Ohio. I got at least one person familiar. So the year before, I said, okay, next year, I'll ride a roller coaster with you. Because I wanted to be the cool dad, right? I wanted to be accepted. The only problem with that was next year came. And Kenny was tall enough. And he said, Dad, remember when you said we'd ride a roller coaster? I said, sure. He said, well, it's time. This is a photo of the Top Thrill dragster in Cedar Point. It's been redesigned, but at the time, it shot you out the gate at 120 miles an hour. You went straight up and twisted, 420 feet. Straight back down and twisting, another 420 feet. You were back in the station in 23 seconds flat. Out at 120, up 420, down 420, and back in 23 seconds flat. Do you have any idea what that does to a 45-year-old body? Because I don't. Oh, I said, Kenny, I said I would ride a roller coaster with you. I did not say today is a good day to die. So we negotiated and we went back and forth, and we finally settled on the Magnum XL 200. Yeah. The Magnum XL 200 only goes up 240 feet. Because everybody knows if you fall from 420 feet, you're going to die. But if you fall from 240 feet, it's going to be like, ta-da. Goes up 240 feet. And as we were getting in line, the chicken looked at the top of the roller coaster, looked at me and said, are you kidding me? I thought, maybe I bit off more than I can chew. Maybe this chicken's right because, at 25, a roller coaster is a thrill ride. At 45, a roller coaster is a hangover on rails. But then I thought, you know what? You know what us motivational speakers say? If you can see it, you can be it. So all I have to do is see myself as 25 years old. So the whole time we're in line going back and forth, I'm like, I'm 25, I'm 25. Chicken's like, you're 45, you're 45. I'm 25, shut up, chicken. 25, 25. Until I got to the front of the line. And I thought, you know what? Age is just a number. I feel 25. This is going to be incredible. So we got in the roller coaster, and they locked that bar down, and we started up the hill. You can see part of the hill. It's a long hill with a chain drive. And we're going up the hill. And as we're going up the hill, I'm like, I'm 25, I'm 25, I'm 25. Got about 50 feet off the ground. And I looked down, and I said, I'm 30, I'm 30, I'm 30. Got to 100 feet, I turned 35. For every 50 feet we climbed, I aged another 5 years. I'm glad we didn't go on the big roller coaster because I would have died of old age. We got to the very top, 240 feet off the ground, and if this is the roller coaster car, you know how it starts to go over, but the majority of the weight is back here? So if we're sitting in the front seat, you are looking straight down. Any guesses where I was sitting? Of course, I was in the front seat because 25-year-old Phil loved that front seat. And I'm looking straight down thinking, what did I do? Well, this lasts for about a second, or in my mind, eternity. And we took off down the hill, and it was like, oh, again, I'm not going to say that word in front of my son. In fact, I couldn't say anything. But the chicken never shut up. You fool! You're 45! What were you thinking? And we're going up the mountain. Oh, this is terrible. And it just kept it up and kept it up and kept it up until finally, 2 minutes and 15 seconds later, we were done. And as we're sitting there, waiting to get off the coaster, I thought, why did I do this? And then I looked at my son. His smile lit up the park. He said, Dad, that was awesome. And I was the cool dad, and that meant that chicken got fried. I had stepped out of my comfort zone, and I had made a connection with my son. Wonderful things happen when you step out of your comfort zone. You see, chickens crave comfort, or they crave comfort. I like the picture, though. Chickens crave comfort. They want you inside of that comfort zone. They don't want you stepping out of your comfort zone. Favorite picture that I've got here. Step out of your comfort zone. They got this one right. Little chicken on the couch. He's stepping out of your comfort zone. You need to remember, great things happen when you step out of your comfort zone. Does that make sense to everybody? Does? Good. Because you are about to be introduced to a tradition that started last year at one of the Project Summit Business Analyst World events in Albuquerque. We call it the Great Project Summit Business Analyst World Chicken Dance. Does everybody know what a chicken dance is, right? Okay, 1 minute, 30 seconds. If you all participate, I guarantee you we have broken the record for the largest Project Summit Business Analyst World Chicken Dance, which probably belongs in the Guinness Book of World Records. Are we good? Everybody stand up. We all know how to do the chicken dance, right? All right, we ready? By the way, it's the special, this is the first time we've ever done the heavy metal Project Antler, that. Ready? All right, give yourselves a hand. Can you advance it one slide? Because I lost my remote and it will start up again. Okay. Somewhere in the dance. Okay, here it is. All right, how'd that feel? Get a little out of your comfort zone, maybe? Good. But was it? Excellent. That's the kind of applause I'm looking for. Yes. Woohoo! But it was a little easier because we're all in it together, right? Everybody was involved. And when you've got your crew, your tribe, and you're doing it together, it is easier to get out of your comfort zone and fry the chickens. Let's do a recap of where we're at, besides being out of breath. Seriously, steps. Man, my Apple Watch is loving this. Okay. What do we need to do? We need to phone a friend. Sometimes we need to phone everyone. We know our ship is not coming in. If we want it, we have to take action. We're going to win the day before we begin it, and we are going to step out of our comfort zone. And most importantly, we are going to fear the right chicken, the red rooster of regret. Now, I would be remiss if I don't give you a warning. I have found that as I fried more and more chickens, I've sometimes gotten pushed further and further out of my comfort zone. Last year, I gave this session as a symposium right here in Orlando. A lady raised her hand and asked a question. She said, "What is the next chicken you're going to fry?" I paused for about half a second. I said, "I'm going to retire from my IT job and pursue keynote speaking full-time in the next year." You want to talk about pushing yourself out of a comfort zone? I mean, I always knew that someday I would retire from IT and pursue the keynote speaking. That's easy. That doesn't require anything. I'll do that someday. Someday is in your comfort zone. When I said by the next year, I was out of my comfort zone. And what had I done right then? I had phoned everyone that was in there, in that room. Because I knew I was not going to get back up on the stage in Orlando a year later and say, "Yeah, that's good advice. I don't do it, but it'd be good for all of you." And so on March 31st of this year, I retired from the IT job and I took up full-time keynote speaking. I've only been in it for a month, but the first thing that comes to my mind is, what took me so long? I got out of my comfort zone. It's like, this is what I was meant to do. This was the big, bold, brilliant idea that I was meant to pursue. And I'm so glad that I got out of the comfort zone, admittedly, pushed by a member of the audience, that's fine. I am so glad that I phoned everyone and took that leap. Now, it may not work that way for you. You may not become a serial chicken fryer, but that's okay. Because I'm here to tell you that even if you fry just one chicken on your way to implementing one big, bold, brilliant idea, it will make you a difference. The chicken you fry today can make today and the next 23,509 and 1/2 days better. I know. Because over 3 decades after that tennis match, which I lost, by the way, over 3 decades after that tennis match, I can tell you that Beth still has those beautiful brown eyes, that long silky hair, and that wonderful smile. And as we mentioned, I'm no longer an IT geek. I'm now a keynote speaker geek. But together, Beauty and the Geek have 3 wonderful kids, 2 awesome dogs, and we are married to each other. That means for the past 3+ decades, her name has been Beth Barth. That was a chicken she had to fry. What does your spreadsheet say? Can you afford to give those chickens even one more day? Your big, bold, brilliant idea might be world-changing, or it could be as simple as asking that special someone out on a date. It doesn't matter. It is your big, bold, brilliant idea. Don't let the chickens win. If there's a chicken that is holding you back, take that chicken out, fry it, achieve your big, bold, brilliant idea, and taste your success. Because I'm here to tell you, members of the Project Summit Business Analyst World Orlando 2024 Conference, success tastes like chicken. Thank you.